You're listening to Two Beers Until Phronesis, a philosophy podcast for students, graduates, and anyone else interested in ideas. Alongside regular guests and friends, we discuss some of life's big questions over a few beers. Enjoy. So this is kind of a sequel to our alcohol and sobriety episode.
Drinking to Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah,
we're hitting the drink hard now tonight already.
Well, yeah.
On another windy
6 beers.
2 beers until phronesis. Yeah. Just 2 more. The pub and drinking I think they're such important elements of culture. Like, it's things we have to deal with every day, but they're usually neglected from kind of more considered conversation. So basically, trying to focus more on the idea of like the actual pub, because last time we were mostly just talking about the psychology and stuff involved with drinking and staying sober and those kinds of things. But like more specifically, the idea of like the old English pub, I think is a really interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, we had a bit of a debate afterwards about what a pub is. What is the difference between like a pub and a bar and the whole nomenclature there. I think you consider it to be, it has to have some kind of historical or element to it, where it's been around for a certain amount of time. Whereas I personally think it's more of an aesthetic thing. I think it's more to do with what it looks like.
That's something I was thinking about today. I think the aesthetic is like a big giveaway, but I think it goes deeper. I think it has to have some relationship with heritage or community, because to me a bar is very like functional. It's like you go into it and like
it sounds more lively, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I've been to lock-ins in like a normal pub, and I've been to lock-ins in a bar, and they're very different. And I think that's like one of the most telling things. So we'll talk about lock-ins in a bit later, but basically in a lock-in in a pub, it's like this nice friendly atmosphere, and you know regulars and things, and there's all the terminology and stuff that you don't see in a bar, and there's all these elements I just think are really interesting. I think we've lost a lot of those kind of pub elements, and they're getting harder and harder to recognise.
I think part of the difficulty I have though is where, especially with the aesthetic and all of that, is like if you walked into somewhere that looked like a pub, it had locals, it had everything else, but it didn't have the history. I think that's the difference here. Whereas I would say that's still a pub, even if it was only around for like 30 years, but it was in every way sort of like an English pub, and it had its locals, it had its thing. You would say that's a bar, or would you say that's?
I'd say it was like a gastropub. I'd say it was trying to. I think an actual pub. I think it's more this sort of ineffable essence that it's more like experiential. You know you're in a pub when you feel like you're in a pub, and I think it's somewhat subjective. But I think to me a pub is somewhere where I kind of have a way in. I know the people who work there, and it has some of that more old worldy sort of. Those elements, that kind of feeling. But yeah, I think generally those are getting harder and harder to recognise. It's like pub games and stuff. We don't have that anymore, and I think there's a lot of blurring going on with a lot of like gastropubs, like I was saying, and bistros and different restaurants, and
diversifying into food and all the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the prerequisite's sort of pretty loose, because a pub is not just an abbreviation for a public house, so it could really kind of be anywhere that sort of has a license to sell alcohol, even though more traditionally associated with the warm kind of fire in the corner, couple of blokes and their dog, effectively. Yeah. Whereas a bar sounds something a bit more metro cosmopolitan. Generally, it's kind of more open space. A lot of people doing shots and stuff.
And I think it's the feeling of like, one is a business, the other one, okay, sure, it's still a business, but I'm not getting that vibe.
And it's almost like a commercial village hall.
Weird, but it's like part of the way they're trying to sell me what I want is by not being very explicit about trying to sell me what I want. It's like they're kind of hiding their intentions, but in a good way. In a pub, it's like
dodgy bloke selling a dragon's egg in the corner. You get that in a pub, but not in a bar. You wouldn't.
I shouldn't have told you that.
I should not have said that.
I think that if you've ever been to like a speakeasy though in like America,
I take it you have.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the prohibition on the last podcast and talked a bit about that and speakeasies and the rise of all that sort of happening. So you said you've been to one of these, well, ex-speakeasies, I guess, as it used to be.
I'd say there's a lot of heritage and history there, and I'd say not all bars. I think in the UK, because we have pubs, there's such a clear difference between a pub and a bar, whereas in America it's all bars. And I guess maybe we're getting into semantics now, but like I think you can still go to bars that have got that kind of homely feel. So I think sometimes the lines are a little bit blurred.
Absolutely, yeah.
It just depends on the management and the kind of business model they have, I think, really. And I think most bars we have in the UK are quite modern, whereas in America they've always had bars. So some of the bars are actually really old. And I guess then you could argue that that's their equivalent of a pub, but I think it's not quite as clear cut as just like kind of bar pub, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roadhouse.
Definitely some blurring. So back in the day, you'd know a pub when you saw it because you wouldn't have any lager. You'd have just kegs on the back wall, and they'd serve it directly from the tap. You wouldn't have like a cellar where the lines come through.
Oh, okay.
Talking to some of the regulars who kind of remember that kind of thing, and it's really interesting. This guy, his first pint he ever bought, and he was like 16. It was 11 pence.
Like the old currency as well.
Yes, yeah. They've been shillings and shit. Yeah.
They used to have a very different setup then, so it was like barrels.
Yeah,
in from
just barrels behind the bar.
Yeah.
And you didn't have lagers. The first lager to come in, do you know which lager it was? And do you know when it came in?
Go for something obvious, but it's probably not going to be. I'm going to say all kind of like Carlsberg, Foster's, but it's not. It's going to be something weird. Not Flowers, is it?
No, Flowers isn't a lager.
Oh,
it's a fucking bitter with loads of bits in it. Or at least the one I had
bits
was.
of dandelion in it.
It's quite nice. Quite a nice bitter actually. No, it's Heineken.
Oh, that was the first.
And do you know when it came in?
Maybe around the war, maybe? I don't know.
60. No, yeah.
Genuinely don't know.
More modern?
Yeah.
78?
Yeah, 78.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So nobody.
That was a fluke.
You knew the answer, you dickhead. I don't know, maybe 78.
Yeah, I'll throw him off. I'll throw him off by saying 60. No, 78.
No, I'll tell you the pub as well. I'm getting a name here.
The crusty juggler.
You
Frog and
fraud.
fiddle.
Yeah, so
Big up.
So yeah, Heineken was the first one to come, and before that, people didn't. Pubs just didn't have lager. It just
You remember you talking to me about this before about the whole thing that people did not drink lager at all, and there was like no such thing of it. So how did it take over? Why did lager just suddenly take over the pubs?
Because it was getting more popular elsewhere, and obviously the problem with having loads of bitters is that they can go off a lot quicker, and it's basically a lot more easy to maintain. So soon as people got a taste for lager, every pub would have it because it was just so much easier to use, and it took off so quickly. In fact, that Camera, so that's campaign for Real Ale, was founded in 1978 to try
to protest against lager.
Because they were just like, oh my
that.
fuck, they got scared, they got shit scared straight away. They were like, right, okay, we can't let lager. And now, obviously, you can't really get a lot of these bitters and milds and even Real Ale in a lot of places. I think Real Ale is having a little bit of a comeback. Like there's festivals and things. So yeah,
Lager doesn't really have quite as strong as a taste as most beers as well. I find usually.
Yeah, it's just inoffensive, isn't it? It's pressurized. It's like the main difference is it's gassy. So yeah, no, you've never heard of Camera before today.
No, I haven't heard of them.
No. Okay, so basically, it's like a ale club. So and it's still going today, and it's pretty big. We get a lot of Camera people in our pub, but basically it's like a social group, and I've got kind of mixed feelings about it because obviously, like we were saying in the alcohol thing, we kind of have to contend with the fact that drinking is in a lot of ways a vice, but the thing is with Camera is that there's a lot of benefits as well. So it's not just about getting pissed. They even do things like walks and stuff. They'll do ramble things and they'll go from pub to pub. So
you part of the Camera, or are you?
I'm not, but I'd like to be in later life. This thing, it's mostly old people. It's mostly men as well. There are a lot of women Camera members that come in as well, and and you do get a lot of actual ale snobs. You do get a lot of people who will be so into their.
I was
ales.
about to use quite like a less politically correct term, but they're very much the traditionalists. Camera in all forms of sort of fluid. They do prefer a lot of sort of just entirely natural processes, which anything that's slightly left field or upsets the apple cart, it just gets annexed completely.
One of them,
Camera.
I mean, I've heard about some Camera members causing problems and some places, but on the whole, I think it's a really positive thing. Like it combats loneliness as well.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. It's all kinds of people are part of it. There's young camera members, and they'll go to like ale festivals and stuff, and it's not about getting pissed.
No,
is the important thing.
I mean, I don't want people to think I'm not entirely knocking it at all. It's the promotion and sort of knowledge, understanding of ales. Effectively, it's something that's communal. People have common interests and knowledge. Like you say, it's a bit more vocational with the walks and everything, and it's promoting knowledge rather than us just living as consumerist society where we just. Everything's kind of synthesized entirely. We don't care how it's made. We don't care how it comes to us. We just neck it and don't think about it. Whereas at least they're thinking about the sort of the artisanal nature.
Yeah, that's the thing. They learn more about the brewing process and the industry in general as well, and where a lot of these places come from, and where a lot of where these beers come from.
Are you sponsored by Camera?
No.
I'm endorsed by this board to say.
You get cheap pints as well, which is really good. That's a bonus.
Yeah. So Zach, you actually work in a cider factory, basically.
Yeah.
Know the whole process because you do tours and things like that, and you understand a lot of that. So I'm kind of interested. You in this cider is obviously a very different process.
Yes,
you corrected me earlier. It's fermentation rather than distillation or any other random word.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole nother interesting sort of alcohol thing. I mean, so you work at Weston's, don't you?
Yes.
And, and that's how long have Weston's been going, and what's?
So that was since 1878.
Yeah.
So that was when originally.
You're a tour guide, aren't you? So you should. Yeah, but technically we could ask you all about Henry Weston's life.
A lot of things. Might be. Hopefully, I'll be able to regurgitate most things without being sort of factually incorrect. But it was. So it was 1878, and that's when a tenant farmer, a cattle farmer at that, Mr. Henry Weston, 29-year-old bachelor, moved to a cattle farm. And he just diversified. The orchards were naturally there. 2 years after moving in, 1880.
You were saying it was basically just his hobby for a long time. He just was like, I'm going to make some cider in my house.
You can still see the stone apple press, can't you, outside? Yeah.
You got the old pier and the chase, or you pull your sack of apples. They're in the it's all the sort of cliche things you'd see in the sort of the three counties in the West Country.
So how big was cider back then? Has cider always been a fixture in making?
Yeah, cider has always been a staple of the West Country and sort of say the West Midlands today as well. 60% of all cider comes from that county of Herefordshire in the country, despite a lot of people thinking it's Somerset, which is the main sort of home of scrumpies, perhaps. It's been a staple. People were paid part wage in cider, about a third of their wages. And they had 6 pints a day on the orchards. But you've got to bear in mind they did this because, the drinking water wasn't exactly consistent in its cleanliness. So,
I was going to ask you, actually, because I think the rest of you guys know. So, Kieran, what is the difference between pear cider and perry?
Isn't pear cider non-alcoholic?
No. So, pear cider is apples and pears. Oh. And perry is pears.
At this point, our listeners have just fucking ejaculated.
Oh my god!
Perry's really hard.
Fucking hell! Taking dudes to knowledge college.
I love perry. Anyway,
Perry's nice.
In fact, I'm drinking a perry right now, and you might be listening. Someone who knows it might be listening. It's quite a nice one. Tom Oliver.
Are you sponsored by them?
No, I'm not.
Are we getting any money for this?
No.
That's one.
This is my shameless plugging now. No, it's a nice local Herefordshire perry pear based.
Made with 100% pear.
You brought me onto a point actually, which is something I want to talk about. Which is I find it really nice how most good pubs will display their local brewers and their local ales and whatnot with pride.
It's a sense of community.
It is, and it's particularly with irritating hipsters these days. It's the done thing to go check out a local pub and try the local brews or the local.
Let's go for the craft beer.
Exactly. Yeah. Is this organic, bro? Is this vegan, bro? And it's but I think, whilst there is that kind of trendy element to it now, there's always been something really nice about going to a local pub and having a local fucking beer.
Because I include cideries as well as breweries, in the same kind of thing. But it's like they have stories. You would associate certain imageries and stories with different kinds of alcohol, and I think they sort of play into your personality. So I think it's it's almost like an exercise in like crafting your own identity when you're at a bar, at a pub. You know, where you choose to sit and what you choose to drink, who you're going with, what kind of things you're doing. But like the way that all the the pump clips and stuff on the merchandising and stuff, they've all got these pretty pictures and stuff. And it's like there are narratives and stories attached to a lot of these things. You know, like they've got a drink called Moonshine, and it's like they're trying to make out it's like been stolen from Devonshire or whatever, and it's like this really strong cider, and it's just is
it a bit like when car adverts where they're just trying to sell you an ethos?
It's like a brand.
Foster's being Australian, even though it's not Australian. It's the same fit. The one that always completely captured my imagination when I was a kid was Witchwood Brewery's Hobgoblin. And I was enthralled by the artwork on that. I thought it was so cool when I was a kid, and like obviously Dad let me have little sips and whatnot. But to this day, when I see the Witchwood logo, like I don't know, it's really nostalgic for me. It's nice.
There's a really good brewery in the Forest of Dean called Bespoke. They've got little pump clothes, Beware the Bear. If anyone knows anything about the Forest of Dean,
who killed the bears?
Who killed the bear? Like we'll talk about that at some other point. But it's a bit of a contentious.
Hold tight, Ruidine.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, just like playing around with those kinds of ideas and stuff.
I can't believe they've actually gone for the bear angle on that.
Yeah.
Like, how have they not had the place burnt to a cinder foot?
But yeah, no, I love kind of checking out like local stuff as well though. Like when we went to Snowdonia the other year, we went and I bought some of that Snowdon Pale Ale just because I wanted to try like the local, and it seems to be quite a done thing with a lot of people, which is like if I go somewhere I want to try what alcohol they have to offer, and they always sell it with pride, and it's nice.
It's difficult getting a lot of people say cider is a summer drink, and I'd agree with fruit cider maybe, but and especially like when it's a chilled bottle of fruit cider, that's a summer drink. But like Scrumpy that's a fucking winter drink. That'll put hairs on your chest, mate. But I think cider isn't a particularly drank thing. Is that a sentence? Outside of a lot of these West Country places all year round, like you can't find, other than like maybe Strongbow or Magnus or something, you don't really find it in a lot of pubs.
For our listeners, Grillin is looking visibly distraught right now.
You really can't get it up in Cumbria.
I saw him fist tense.
It's a shame.
Arthur, 2-bit,
ready to defend the cider.
Yeah, no, it's a shame because like it in like saying in the West Country in Herefordshire, that's like the go-to drink alongside like lager. It's literally it's the replacement of lager.
Kieran, as the token guy who lived in America for a while, is cider? Do they drink cider over there at all?
I think you can get it, but interestingly,
they shot it, don't they? Like fucking shots of cider.
I'm not sure. I didn't really encounter it. So I lived on the West Coast. I lived in California, which is quite predominantly spirits, although Guinness is also weirdly popular over there, but I'll get to that in a bit.
It's the Irish route,
that's another discussion. I'm pretty sure they call it apple cider, but it's basically just like non-alcoholic. It's like fizzy apple juice, but they call it apple cider over there, which is really weird. Because when I was talking to my ex about it, and I was like saying, "Oh, do they sell cider?" And she's like, "Why do you want that?" And she was confused while I was asking for a non-alcoholic drink. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't think so. Maybe in other parts of America. But
I'm sure there are like knockoff sort of English style places that might do it. Probably.
If you had asked for hard cider, you might have been given something different. So that's the difference in North America. You need to ask for hard cider, particularly the northern US states and parts of Canada. That's the difference there. So yeah, any cider by default is just a buzz with pretty much juice.
Yeah, it is. It's like apple ties. Yeah.
I did hear a few years back that cider was kind of having an expansion in America. It was growing in popularity. I don't know if that was a fad. Because also there's been loads of fads like the fucking... first it was Baby Sham and champagne. Then it was craft ales, which couldn't fucking move like cans of that stuff.
They still love it now, man.
Yeah, I think the fad is over though, because now it's gins.
Gin, for a brief point in the UK, became so popular that the government had to ban it because gin was so cheap and so drank ubiquitously that people just it had to get banned for a while. I can't remember when that legislation was lifted, but
Pink
Yeah.
gin.
Are we talking recent or?
No, this is. Oh, yeah, you've put me on the spot because I think I mentioned it last time. I can't remember what the dates were. This is probably 1800s, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Not recent.
I was going to say, like,
No.
I probably would have fucking heard about gin being banned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was just
much around
call
today.
like Google the gin craze or something like that, and you might find something.
Yeah, but it's still to this day, like, gin is just like I've lost words.
It's really popular.
It's big,
Yeah,
and
that's what I meant to
funny
say.
and cool.
Pink, cool and good. Pink gin's really popular these days, man. I mean, just
Like
like
Lily gin and stuff like that.
it's a really popular drink these days.
Yeah, even the smaller pubs, like the pubs that aren't necessarily outward looking and trying to really attract people in. A lot of the pubs that are happy to sort of just kind of do their own thing and not, what are you laughing at?
We only serve John Smiths here.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's like reminds me of the Mighty Boosh.
Shout out to Sang, or was it he posted sort of parallel universe where everyone drinks piss. Bartender, what'll it be? Piss. I sat there and I just looked at that. I just thought it's so obvious, but so brilliant.
Yeah. So Connor, you've been in a lock-in before. Should we talk about what a lock-in actually is? So what is a lock-in?
It's when you go to a pub and they've obviously gone past their licensing hours. Or in some cases, I was talking to one of the regulars at work who used to own a lot of pubs. Sometimes you'd have a lot of crackheads wandering around like on a Sunday night trying to get into pubs. So they just sack it off and they just close the curtains, lock the door, pretend they were shut, all go down to the back so you weren't making much noise, turn quite a few of the lights off. And now it's harder these days because obviously with the licensing laws, all transactions are kind of recorded. But generally they'll find some way of, they'll either just finish their drink slowly or they'll maybe put one in for tomorrow sort of thing and keep a tab. Yeah, I've been to a few lock-ins.
Yeah. So essentially, it's when a bar or pub officially closes, so they can't make any more alcoholic transactions. They can't make any more transactions with the till. But patrons can sometimes stay in the pub despite it being technically closed. And like you said, sometimes there's like drinks sort of paid for before the official closing time. So they'll sort of like prepay for some drinks. There'll be some sort of slightly cheeky things going on. But essentially, it's one of the sort of loopholes of it is that, once the licensing hours are over, you can technically say it's a private party. So it's sort of in a way, but this is only a real thing that, for the most part, it's in a pub where they actually trust you and sort of are okay with hanging about with you afterwards.
Most of the time, it's very clandestine. So I went to one back in a while back. It was the first one I'd ever been in, and that was it's just a nice atmosphere because it's like usual boys. Because we used to sit by the curtains, so we'd go, "Yep, sure," and then we'd close the curtains, and we'd all know the situation or whatever, and then it'd just be like 20 of us, and we'd just stay there, and we'd have a couple of drinks in already, so we weren't technically they were pre-bought, and again, it's a bit dodgy, but it's really nice to be so into a little community and to know all the people well enough to be able to be part of that. It's like I was saying, you not only acquire the taste, but you get let in to you sort of learn. It's all about maturity.
Yeah, because it originated actually back in 1914 with this act called the Defence of the Realm Act, which was a wartime thing, which was basically to restrict the hours that pubs could actually open, so that people wouldn't turn up to work drunk and all that sort of thing, and there just would be less boozing in general, and because of the rationing and whatever. Essentially, it was because of these limited hours, there would sort of be this cheeky thing where they would kind of, okay, well, we can't sell you any more alcohol, guys, but if we lock the doors and keep it all hush hush, and maybe do some transactions beforehand, you're okay to sort of stick around and have your private party. And obviously, it wasn't until I think it's 2003 Licensing Act that now pubs and bars can stay open more or less as long as they want, as long as it's there's obviously certain differences in
licenses.
There's certain licenses. There's like extra licenses and extra charges.
Yeah,
and things
most
like
places
this.
don't do it. I know a few pubs trialed it and did the whole 24-hour thing. And it's not worth it.
Yeah, there's got to be like commercial viability in it, I guess. So I'm guessing some of these lock-ins that there weren't just two of you in the corner. Otherwise, they would just say, "There's two of you. We're going to lose money. Fuck off and go home."
I had the weirdest fucking experience of a lock-in. Pub I'd never been into before, and I've never been to the place since the town. But I went there, and I really should go back because fucking hell. Like we went in, we were playing darts, and the owner, I think he'd had couple, but he wasn't pissed. He came in, he was like, "Oh, you guys are still here. Do you want another drink?" And we're like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'll leave it on the bar for you. If you really want another one out yourself, obviously I'll check the cameras or whatever later." I didn't see any cameras, but he was just like, "I'm gonna go up to bed." He turned off all the lights, shut the curtains, and he was just like, "Help yourself to your drinks and whatever." It's like we could have gone behind the bar and just fucking drank anything.
Wow.
And he was just like, the door will lock itself on the way out. It's like, mate, I've never met you. What's going on?
That is so weirdly trusting, but also
it's like that's really cool.
And
So
it was you and a friend.
it was me and a friend,
just you
and it was just us two, and we were playing darts in the dark because obviously we had like torches and shit.
just sticking out of your ear.
Yeah.
I can't see. We'll have to go home now.
there's going to be some interesting effects on that in the edit.
Yeah.
Please do.
Phaser and
I'll be disappointed if that's not edited in some way.
I'll see it in the waveform, so it'll be easy to find. No, but this is obviously lock-ins are a uniquely British thing. I mean, I'm guessing that this isn't like a thing in Europe. Does it happen in Europe, or is it?
It must. I mean, the concept is very. Yeah, I think the idea of the lock-in is more of a. As a cultural phenomenon, it's more British, but technically that must happen the world over, But the whole idea of a lock-in being like a staple thing, a thing that at least historically was done a lot, I think is more British. I sort of had a lock-in the other day in a bar, and like I was saying, the attitude is so telling. It's so different. We were basically being herded.
Yeah, it's a sort of like, okay, we're closed now, guys. Like, start making your way out.
Yeah,
at some point.
Start making your way out, but you can go towards the back and finish off your drinks quietly, and it's like I don't really like this. I just feel like I don't know.
You've overstayed your welcome.
Yeah,
or something.
It's about being welcome. I think that's the major difference. There's being welcome in a pub, and there's being a customer, and then there's being absolutely
crony.
Have you ever done do you do pub quizzes very often, Connor?
Do I partake in them?
Do you partake in the public house quiz?
I dabble.
Oh,
I do a few.
Are you an avid quizzer?
I used to run the pub quiz at the student union bar. I used to
come up with the questions
every week. I used to make my own questions. I used to make like 40 questions. A total like waste of effort because there was only
you'd be the only cunt there answering them.
Yeah. Just like,
and the winner for 3 consecutive wins.
No, so they normally
like literally announcing this to yourself over the tannoy,
there'd usually be like 3 teams. It was a very quiet bar, and one of the teams was made up of my family and friends. So they'd always, and they'd usually win because of my dad. But it would be nice little thing if they come down every Sunday. And I remember getting a card from all the customers, all 10 of them, because there was literally only 10 customers in this whole bar, so they all signed a card, and it's just like, yep, there you go, that's that job.
Was this that bar that had almost nobody in it? So
yeah,
in a way, that was 10 times more than normal.
I've never seen 10 people in there.
Yeah, exactly.
0 times 10.
Yeah, but the pub quizzes came from that same thing where they were trying to get people in. It was in Barnes and Porter in 1970. They came up with this idea, why don't we just make a quiz game that will help get people. And there was actually people, they actually travelled around to different pubs and bars, or pubs mostly in those days, and went, we'll sell you this game that you can play on certain days and it'll bring in people. And that was a business they made, selling this idea of the pub quiz. And so, that was a strategy for getting people in on Mondays and all that. It
definitely works. Yeah, because they're always on off-peak days. You never see a pub quiz on a Saturday night, obviously.
No.
It's annoying because the situation I'm in with the place I work, we have a pub quiz, and it's electronic. And, it's less chance for like cheating and stuff. It's quite fast, and it's paperless, and there's a lot of benefits to it. But it attracts a big crowd, and you get these professional quizzes that come in. Yeah. And they can kind of dominate. And the whole idea of like a professional quizzer being like one of the types of patrons you can get is very, very unique and interesting thing. It's just like, okay, here come the quizzes. It's it's fucking and they.
Not the quizzes.
What a sight! Yes. So quizzes are a British thing then, because I always assumed they were. Pub quizzes.
Yeah, I'm assuming they've obviously spread like a disease across Europe by now, but they're probably, I think they originated in.
They've always struck me as an overtly British thing.
Actually,
they're not common in America. I've spoken to a few Americans. They never do them.
I've never seen them.
And kind of bizarre because it's not a particularly like, you know, difficult concept to implement and get around. You know,
I think they run quizzes, but not like we do. Not where everyone gets absolutely smashed and just like, do you know what I mean? There's something quite special about a British pub quiz.
It's the way all the teams are like banter with each other in the intervals and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
apart from the quizzes, whose trousers like pulled up above their belly button.
I think there's a bunch of really interesting ethical elements to working in a pub, and because obviously, when you think about it, a pub is basically just a big building that enables people's vices. It's strange that there are any really rules at all. Like, obviously, if someone's too drunk, you can't serve them. That's very clear in law. You know, the whole like don't do drunk policies, and a lot of pubs really try and crack down on it. A lot of pubs have very strict limits. You know, some places would even have. I think it's more of an American thing, but they'll have like a 4-drink limit or something. Which
really well.
Yeah.
Does that also count for the type of drink? So it would be like you can only have this many of this.
Well, it's measures and so singles.
Quintuple vodkas.
I'll have a bucket of beer.
Yeah, I was about to say like there's going to be a loophole there, isn't there?
Yeah, no.
Just drink gin all night. Like.
No. It would probably be in measures, and they work it out like that. It's not many places that do that. It's just, you know, it could be an effective way to kind of tackle like binge drinking. And
but for most places, like where you work, it's more just eyeballing it. It's like this guy's had enough. This guy's had enough.
Yeah, behavior is like a big thing. Have you guys ever stood at a bar? Is that what you do when you go into a bar?
Yeah.
Not just to order, but like to stay and stand at it.
Yeah.
For men, I mean, the only place I've done that is with you at the SU bar because I just know people at the SU bar. But
yeah, like as nice as it is to like find a booth and sit there and kind of, you know, knuckle in and just have a few drinks with friends or whatever.
Like stare at strangers, give them weird looks as they come near.
Yeah. It's like standing at a bar is basically the physical bar is just like the most interesting part of a pub. Like if it was in a time capsule and we found out like, oh, you know, 200 years ago people used to do this, we'd be like, well, that's really interesting.
Will they? I don't know about that one. I think there's going to be some slightly more interesting thing. Oh my god!
I was trying to figure that one out. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not talking about sitting at the bar. I'm on about the bar itself and all the elements that surround the bar.
Oh right, so like kind of like
I think that's going to stick
contemporary
around for a long
things
time.
around them.
Yeah, no, I do. But what I'm saying is, I think we take for granted like all the little quirks and things that go into, especially older bars. Like
when we've all got like 8 eyes and we're like 9 foot tall and like blue, then yeah, maybe we'll be like, whoa, they used to sit at these things called bars.
Avatar 5.
Yeah, literally, this is James Cameron's next script. So, well, I mean, sitting at the bar is like, it's just a communal thing, but I think for most people, it's like the trouble is most of the people sitting at the bar, there's obviously a massive age gap between us and
so like I say, you have to kind of have a way in, but once you have that way in, once you're part of that community, it's, you know, it's so much more rewarding than just going to the back of the pub straight away. Being able to stand at the bar, it's like, I don't know, I find it fascinating anyway. Like fucking like coat hooks underneath and shit. Like the fact they have to like lock down the charity boxes and stuff so that people don't fucking run off with charity money. Yeah, just, you know, like even behind the bar, you know, you got like speed racks and things, and it's at the bell as well. I just find it interesting.
Yeah, the last orders bell.
Yeah. Do you guys know the law around like last orders and?
No, go for it. Is it anything to do with like town chant? You know those like mayors when they go through the towns, like hear ye. Yeah, criers. That's the one. What? Nothing to do with that, is it?
A town crier. The guys that used to ring the bell. He's asking, is there anything to do with that?
It's not the same thing. It's like last orders bell.
No, it's just literally so people can hear.
Yeah,
because there's a loud noise. Because obviously back in the day, back in the day,
related, I guess.
Yeah, back in the day you could. Well, yeah.
Bells were like the thing to do, weren't they?
Yeah, because
like,
the only
if you
way
want to be loud and obnoxious, get a bell.
Exactly. It's the only way you can make a noise.
Yeah, before megaphones,
before vuvuzelas.
Yeah, literally. Because before you could go, you had to go. Actually, that's not a very good bell noise, is it?
No.
Oh, I did.
I was wondering what that was.
Bell noise, as if I'd made it. Whoa! I did a perfect bell noise there. That's amazing. Hang on, that was the wrong one. That was a reception hotel bell. I'll try a better one. All right, there we go. That was better. That's a better impression of a bell.
Fucking hell. I can't wait to show. I can't wait to show all this to your future wife, mate.
Bell
there won't be a
impression.
future wife, mate. I've already fucked that one up, mate. That's a timeline that's sealed off now.
Right, last orders. Is it just like you got like a cut-off point if there's an hour? Is it like a time frame thing? Or is it
so when bars call time, so you obviously got last orders first, so chance to get a swift drink in. But then after the cut-off point, you can literally start checking people out. It's been a long time since pubs have had to have a mandatory drink-up time afterwards, like a 20-minute period where people can finish their drinks. There's 15 minutes legally in Scotland, but it's not legally defined in the UK, so they can ignore it. So technically, people could serve you a drink at 11:59 and then kick you out a minute later. Pubs can refuse service for any.
They have the right to, with like no explanation. Sometimes it's like sort of like bouncers. They can just like chuck you out, not let you in, just because they don't like the look of you.
With barring people, they have to have more of a reason. But refusing say if I'm serving someone, I can just go, I don't want to. I mean, that's shit business.
Don't like the look of you, son.
And I'd get in trouble.
I'd cash that in.
I'd get in trouble. You know what I mean? I'd get in trouble with my manager, and it'd be shit business. But technically, it can. It's the same with a lot of, but especially, obviously you're serving alcohol. You're right there.
Well, I was just going to quickly ask, and sorry to cut in, but if either of you two worked in a pub before?
Not really, no.
Not really?
Yeah.
No.
You say not really?
No, I did like a thing. I did like a training thing at a bar like once. I just hated it, so I was like, fuck this. Didn't do it. So I didn't really know.
Yeah.
Just a couple of like shifts down like a local pub.
I remember.
Down to
I remember where it was.
The boozer,
Yeah.
aged 12.
Okay, now I was just curious to see who'd actually like worked behind the bar here or not, because I wasn't sure if it was just me and Connor.
I can say I've done like a couple of full shifts pretty much before, but really not like a seasoned veteran at it at all.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of like subjectiveness to how you deliver your service, isn't there? Like you definitely do have to kind of your own kind of judge of character, your own judge of morals come into it a lot.
Yeah, this is the thing. So when you're preventing somebody from doing harm to themselves, we're really talking about acute harm. We're talking about immediate harm, like they can't fucking stand. But the pub industry is more than happy to kind of long term do considerable harm. But I think the major difference is one is an informed choice because it's a lifestyle. I'm talking about drunks, not just regulars, people who are just drinking to die, sort of thing. I think it gets murkier because you have to judge a lot more. It's very easy to see when somebody's just pissed up, and obviously one is informed and consensual. It's somebody coming in on their own steam day after day. But it just seems weird because obviously there's very little difference in some respects. This whole we're more than happy to let people do massive long-term harm to their bodies over and over again, driving themselves into an early grave. But if someone has a bit of sick in the corner, it's like, oh, we'll get out, or you know what I mean?
It's because like they're not necessarily, at least I don't think in the eyes of the law, they're not liable for somebody's long-term health conditions. But if somebody's so drunk that they fall over and crack their head open in the bar or something like that, even if they're not going to get in trouble for it, suddenly the police are turning up. Do you know what I mean? It's more hassle than it's worth. So it's that kind of pseudo care. It's that they don't really give a fuck. They're just they're box ticking. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, it's just strange because it's under the language of obviously like, oh, we kind of have it looking after people's welfare kind of thing.
Do they fuck? Yeah. Of course they phrase it like that though.
Yeah.
It's no different to gambling. It's like the please gamble responsibly that you see at the bottom of gambling adverts. They don't give a fuck. They want you to gamble. Jesus Christ. They want that money. It's just a box ticking exercise. And it's the same thing with the throwing out people that are drunk. Because if they don't do that, potentially they could fuck up their gaff. They could have like some fucking pissed South Wales bird chucking up everywhere. And they don't want that. But they're quite happy for her to die at home of liver failure. Like they don't. Do you know what I mean? Like it's it's out of sight, out of mind.
So when you worked in a bar, did you ever twat tax someone?
Twat. I've never heard that phrase before, but I know exactly what you're on about.
I've never done it, but I know a lot of pubs. A lot of people that work in pubs do it. I have seen it before.
Yeah, charging them more because they're being a cunt. Right?
Yeah.
No, I've never done it personally. But I've definitely like punished people for being knobheads before. Like if somebody's like kind of clicking their fingers at me or whatever, I've kind of like walked up to them, looked straight at them so they know I've seen them, and then walk off and go and serve someone else. And like, which
there are ways around it without you're essentially stealing, but it's like there's no benefit. No. It's literally just spite. So you don't get the money. The company does. I know you've got to. Yeah, I know you've got to kind of be in that mindset of, well, the company's money is my money because it's my job security and everything. You know, as an ideal worker in a job, but it just seems like because they could just look at ask for a receipt later and be like, oh, hang on, I've got change. Exactly. And it's just it just seems like, you know, just reprimand someone. Just be like, if someone starts clicking at you or just being really annoying, just be like, you know, or like taking way too long, not interested. You know, we had a big group of 20 people the other day, and they were just not concerned that I was actually doing labour for them. You know, and I had to keep getting their attention. I literally leaning over because it was so loud. I've been going, come on, your next order. I've made you 6 drinks already, and you haven't got your order ready. You're not ready. You don't care that I'm running around for you.
No.
And it's like, but the last thing I want to do is just I'm gonna just out of spite just make you pay more than you should. It's like, I don't get anything from that.
That's the thing, though. I think most people that do bar work don't like it, though. Like, I hated it, and everyone I worked with hated it as well. Like,
really?
Not to discredit people. I know you enjoy what you do, and I'm not trying to, piss on that. But where both the places, so I worked at a hotel, and worked at another hotel. Actually, it was a country club, golf club, right? Those are the 2 times I've worked at bars. So Speech House Hotel in the Forest of Dean and Bell's Golf Club.
Yeah, I was served by you there. It's actually pretty fancy there.
Yeah, mate. Used to do the old glass flips and all that.
Yeah.
Did
you? All dressed up smart.
I was pretty edgy, yeah. Dressed up not like a scumbag for once. It was nice. Yeah. But yeah, I just hated it. And as a result of that, I think that hate just leaked over into customers. If I was in a job that I was actually passionate about and I really liked, I think the proclivities to kind of engage in spiteful behaviour towards someone that's you perceive to have done a misjustice.
I could definitely see that happening to myself. Working in retail.
Yeah, man.
When I worked in retail, I was like, no, I have to kind of get out of this because it's making me resent
people
most of my life, because most of my life I'm spending there, or getting ready for work or thinking about work, and it's like if I resent that part, it's like it's gonna leak into how I treat other people and how I conceptualize myself. It's like I also want to be myself at work. I want to have that sense of self-identity that's not, because I've talked about this way back, but on the first episodes and stuff, but when you are working, you effectively assume another identity. You or at least elements of your identity are restricted. So the more freedom you can express in a job, and the more that job speaks to you, the better you're going to feel ultimately. It's like, some people can just kind of put their head down and do it, but I really can't. So, like I've said, I mean, I get fucking fascinated about fucking coat hangers on bars and stuff, and fucking, the fact that fucking charity boxes are chained down and just little elements and stuff. Like I'm obviously infatuated with pubs and what they kind of do for communities and do for, I don't know why, but I just always have been. So, being able to just go to work and be part of that it's just a lot better than running around a warehouse or whatever.
Yeah,
I was doing before.
I think what I've observed, I've been to many a public house over the year, I like to think, and I've observed happy pubs and sad pubs, which is where you go to some pubs, there's a lovely atmosphere, there's a lovely dynamic between the people ordering and the people serving. The people serving seem to like what they do, they're good at their craft. You get some of those bar people that are so passionate about it, and they do all the fucking tricks, or they put the gift in the gap.
This is what I mean. Like, so just by virtue of like how it fundamentally kind of works, you're going to have like things like beer mats, things like straws, but then you also get this extension where people are doing little tricks and shit with them, and it's the way that all these little rituals have evolved around, like I said, the physical bar, and it's about that dynamic as well. Like on one side you have this fucking order and everything, and on the other side it's just complete fucking chaos, and it's just this really weird kind of thing, and it's so hard, it's so easy to get wrong. Like I've worked in really shit pubs in the past where that whole line isn't respected, or the whole, these people do that and the punters do what they do. and there's no passion or interest. I heard a really good thing the other day. I poured a pint that was a bit too heady, pint of Guinness, big head, and someone said, apparently this is like a well-known phrase back in the day, and it's one of those old pub things. Someone went, "Oh, the vicar's in," because it's the collar. I was like, just little things like that. It's like, yeah.
Too much head. Story of my life.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh my god. Have you ever been to that bar, like downtown? That's just so cool, man. It's just so cool.
The strawberry daiquiris are
Dude,
just
this
die
amazing
for.
like avocado martini. It's so good. So good.
Avocado martinis.
Avocado martini.
I'm trying to do an American accent. It just fucking slips
it's
into
just so
Herefordian.
You know, when you do,
avocado.
like those really like noxious, like Californian sort of like ones. I like the other ones are just like really annoying. Like,
Right. I just remembered the best thing. The only thing I can ever fucking remember from Shooting Stars. It was
I thought you were about to talk about the topic.